Last April, I told a client to pay $4,800 in taxes that they didn't have to pay. Not because they owed it, not because they had no choice. I told them to write that check on purpose, voluntarily, while the market was in near bear territory. The news was about as bad as it has been in 3 years, and most people were doing everything they could not to touch their money. And it was one of the best financial moves that we made all year. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what we did, exactly what happened, and exactly why a market sell-off, the kind that makes most investors freeze, is actually the optimal time for one of the most powerful tax moves in financial planning. The client is now $5,200 past the break-even point, $30,000 compounding entirely tax-free. The 20-year projection shows a tax savings of $27,826, and the $4,800 tax bill has been fully recovered in growth. Here's the whole story. Quick note, before we get into it, if you have a pre-tax IRA or a 401k, and you want to know if you're sitting in a conversion window right now, the link is in the description to book a free consultation. Takes 30 seconds. Now, let's go back to last April. Let me set the scene. April of 2025, the S&P 500 had fallen nearly 20% from its February record high. Tariff announcements were coming out of Washington every few days, each one setting the market lower. On April 7th alone, the index hit an intraday low of 4,835, a 21% decline from the peak. The NASDAQ had already entered bear market territory, and the headlines were brutal. Most investors were doing one of two things, either panicking and moving to cash, or they were paralyzed, watching their accounts decline and waiting for clarity before doing anything. And in the middle of all that, I got on a call with a client and said, "This is our window. We're doing the Roth conversion right now." His first reaction was exactly what you might expect. The market is down 20%. My IRA is down. Why would I convert now and lock in a tax bill? And the answer to that question is the entire point of this video, because the intuition that a declining market is a bad time to convert is completely backwards. A declining market is the best time to convert, and let me show you why. Here's the logic, step by step. When you do a Roth conversion, you take money out of a pre-tax account, a traditional IRA or 401k, and you move it into a Roth IRA. You pay the income tax on that amount converted in the year you convert. That's the cost, and everything inside the Roth then grows completely tax-free forever. Now here's the critical thing. Your tax bill is based on the dollar value you convert, not the number of shares, the dollar value. So when the market is down 20%, that same position is worth 20% less. You convert fewer dollars. You pay tax on fewer dollars. The IRS gets a smaller cut. And then when the market recovers, and it always recovers, every dollar of that recovery happens inside the Roth, permanently tax-free. You're essentially buying the recovery with after-tax dollars at a 20% discount, and you're locking in a lower tax bill than you would have paid at a market high. Think about what that means in practice. If this client had done the same conversion in, say, January or February at the high, he would have converted $20,000 worth of shares. In April, at the correction low, the same number of shares was worth significantly less, meaning he converted more shares at the same dollar amount. More shares inside the Roth, more shares participating in the recovery, all tax-free. The fear was the opportunity. The bad news was the signal to act. Now, let me show you exactly what we did with real numbers from the actual analysis I ran for this client. We converted $20,000 from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA in April at the 24% federal tax bracket. The tax cost on this conversion was $4,800. That's the check he wrote voluntarily to the IRS. $4,800 paid once, upfront, done. The converted amount went into the Roth and was invested in a diversified portfolio. 14 months later, the value of that position is $30,000. Let's break that down. He started with $20,000 in a pre-tax IRA. He paid $4,800 in a tax to convert. He needed the position to grow by at least 24% from $20,000 to $24,800 just to break even, to recover what the tax will cost him. The position is now worth $30,000. That's $5,200 past the break-even threshold. The $4,800 tax bill has been fully recovered in growth and then some. And every dollar of that $30,000 is now permanently sheltered from tax. The IRS has no further claim on it. It grows tax-free, it withdraws tax-free, no required minimum distributions, no bracket management, done. That growth happened for two reasons. One, the market recovered from the correction. The assets that were temporarily depressed in April bounced back. Two, we timed the conversion at a point where the tax bill was calculated on a depressed value, so the recovery happened inside of the Roth rather than inside of a taxable account. That second point is the one that most people miss. It's not just the market recovering, it's the fact that recovery happened in the right account. Let me walk you through the break-even analysis because I think this is the cleanest way to see whether a Roth conversion is worth it. The starting point is $20,000 converted. That's the amount that moved from the traditional IRA into the Roth IRA. The tax cost was $4,800 as a 24% tax bracket. That's the one-time upfront cost. The number that felt painful in April when the market was already down. So the break-even threshold is $24,800. That's how much the position needed to be worth for the conversion to have paid for itself. The converted $20,000 needed to grow by 24%, exactly equal to the tax rate, to recover what was paid. The current value is $30,000. That's $5,200 past the break-even threshold. The conversion has already paid for itself and generated a positive surplus. Now here's the thing about the break-even analysis. Crossing it isn't just about recovering the tax cost. It's also about what happens after. Every dollar above $24,800 is a dollar of gain that is now permanently tax-free. At $30,000 today, there's $10,000 in growth since the conversion, none of which will ever be taxed. And the break-even gets easier to cross the longer you hold. At 7% annual growth, the position doubles approximately every 10 years. Every doubling happens inside the Roth. Every dollar of that compounding is tax-free, and the IRS never sees it again. Now let's zoom out and look at what this decision actually means over 20 years. We start with $30,000, the current value of the converted position. At 7% annual growth, that's $30,000 becomes about $115,940 in 20 years. That math is identical whether the money is in a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA. The difference is entirely in how it gets taxed at distribution. The traditional IRA path, every dollar that comes out is taxed at ordinary income, whatever your marginal rate is. Assuming the same 24% tax bracket, that amount in a traditional IRA leaves you with about $88,114 after tax. The IRS takes $27,826. But the Roth IRA path, that $115,940 is fully tax-free. No tax, no bracket management, no required minimum distribution, no Medicare surcharges triggered by the withdrawal. You keep all of it. The net advantage of doing the Roth conversion is $27,826 in tax savings over 20 years. From a $4,800 upfront tax payment, that's a 480% return on the tax cost. And here's what makes this projection conservative. It assumes the 24% tax bracket holds for the next 20 years. Tax rates have historically gone up, not down over time. The current Tax Cuts and Jobs Act from 2017 has been extended, but it does expire at the end of 2028 if Congress does not act, which would push the 24% tax bracket toward the 28% bracket. If that happens, the Roth advantage gets even larger. We locked in a 24% rate in April. Future conversions may cost more. Scale this up. This is a $20,000 conversion. What happens if you convert, say, $50,000 a year for 5 years during a low income window, or $100,000? The math compounds in your favor at every step. The tax you pay today at a known rate beats the tax you pay tomorrow at an unknown rate, which is likely higher. That's the kind of proactive planning that I like to do. If you have a pre-tax retirement account and you want to know whether you're in a conversion window, whether the current rate environment, your income this year, or your account balances make a conversion worth doing, that's exactly the conversation I want to have. The link is in the description to book a free consultation. Now, there's 3 things that I want you to take away from this video. Number 1, a Roth conversion is a voluntary tax payment today to eliminate a larger forced tax payment in the future. The question is never, should I pay tax? You're going to pay tax either way. The question is when, at what rate, and how much. Number 2, market corrections are Roth conversion windows. When your IRA is down 20%, your tax bill on a conversion is 20% lower. The recovery happens inside the Roth, tax-free. The fear in the market is the signal to act, not to wait. And number 3, the break-even is just the starting line. This client is already $5,200 past the break-even 14 months in. At 7% annual growth, that $30,000 becomes $116,000 in 20 years, and none of it will ever be taxed. The $4,800 paid in April is the best $4,800 this client has ever sent to the IRS.